What's going on, Bassmaster fans? Welcome into the Inside Bassmaster Podcast. Another episode going in the books today. Ronnie Moore here hosting it with my guy, Kyle Jessie, our co-host. And Kyle, man, we're going to just jump straight into this one because this is a fun event that we just got done with Santee Cooper Lakes over there in the low country of South Carolina. And it broke the century mark. We always are worried about the 100-pound mark. When we have the opportunity, we hope to hit it. And boy, did we hit it. What a great event. And I know you had a really great time and captured some great moments out there of those guys catching some giant ones.
Yeah, we finally got it right. I mean, if we say a tournament's going to be 100 pounds enough, eventually we're going to be right. But this time we definitely got it right. It definitely ended up being a slugfest in all regards. And yeah, no, you're right. I saw some really, really cool things happen on the water. And Santee Cooper of Lakes is just a crazy special place. That's really the best way to put it.
Well, when you can have over, I think it was 80 pounds, basically 80 pounds or so in the fall for an event, you know that that's a great body of water. And so we're so excited that we got to have it in the spring, and boy, did it deliver. And man, I think it would have kept delivering for another 2 or 3 days, a whole week. If we had the event this week as we're shooting the podcast, I think they would have kept catching them. I mean, we could have had 200 pounds in 6 days instead of 4 days, who knows, but
it's hard to complain about how the tournament played out, but considering the 3 days of practice prior to the event, every day started in the 20s as far as degrees goes, we definitely got fortunate for it to be as good as it was. And like you said, had the week leading up to the tournament been more warm, it could have gotten really, really crazy.
That's the crazy thing, is because we always talk about a cold front leading into a full moon and a warming trend. That is the recipe for goodness. And that's exactly what happened at the Harris Chain. And it did not come to fruition with the fish on the beds, albeit they have like 17 waves of spawners in Florida. So you never will have, it's not the first huge wave. There has been a wave that moved up at Santee Cooper Lakes, obviously, but this was probably wave number 2. A big contingent came up because we saw 2 weeks ago at Lake Hartwell the signs of the spawn starting, and then it got cold for a week. And so, those fish were probably already starting to spawn at Santee when we were at Hartwell, but they kind of held a wave back and then they all rushed forward. So what a great event. I want to get in it with our winner, Drew Cook. He is our guest today. We've got some other guests as well. But Drew being the first time Elite Series champion, we're going to get Drew into the call now for the podcast. And it's very, very cool. And I will say this, I love all winners on the Bassmaster Elite Series, Kyle, but when we have a winner that is similar age to us, we fished against them in college, probably, we know about them, they're our age and whatnot. It kind of makes you feel good about yourself that, hey, these young guys, they can close out a deal. They can't just perform all season to be consistent. They can close out wins like Patrick Walters and Drew Cook have.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the case. Oh no, I think we're starting to get him here.
Yeah, there's Drew right now. He's got we already went through this with the test. He's got to turn it. There we go. Perfect.
There we go.
Drew, can you hear us?
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And Kyle, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do it. We do it for every guest. A round of applause for 100-pound man, Drew Cook, and with some flares for the dramatic at the end of the day on the final day. Drew, wire to wire, 105 pounds, 5 ounces, broke the century mark. You did everything that you wanted to do in your Elite Series career in this one event. You caught them all sight fishing, you broke 100 pounds, and you won an Elite Series event. So I'd have to say it's probably a really good week for you and the Cook family.
It was an amazing week. Definitely something that I'll never forget. And I mean, like you said, for it to go down how it did, and to be able to win my first elite event the way that I did, how I loved to fish, it was really special. And there was always a running joke around all my friends from back home that I was gonna, I'd win my first tournament smallmouth fishing with a spinning rod or something like that, something that's not me at all. But to be able to get it done, and I mean, dude, it was obviously closer than I wanted it to be on the final day, but it all worked out. And it was I wish every bass angler could experience what it's like for it to happen. It's an unexplainable thing. And it's just like what I told you 2 weeks ago. that the moment your first child is born, it's going to change your life. And you said, yeah, I agree. But you don't know what I'm talking about until it happens. And that's the same thing that I'm trying to explain about, getting my first win. It's unbelievable feeling.
So Drew, obviously Ronnie mentioned it, you won the tournament doing what everybody associates you with as far as your strengths and things of that nature. So talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously cold weather in practice, then warm weather throughout the tournament, full moon. Were you able to find fish in practice, or did you just find some and feel like they were going to be coming to you? Or how did that whole transition happen from practice to the tournament as far as actually finding and seeing fish?
In practice, the last 2 days of practice, I did nothing but look. I never caught a bass. Never really picked up a rod, but there was some males on bed that I had marked, and then I had 2 females that were actually on bed, but I had marked quite a few other females where they were just, kind of sitting on the on a pad point or next to a grass clump or something like that. You knew that they were gonna spawn. They were just waiting for a male to court them to bring them to the bed, and it kind of all was relying on those females, pulling up on the bed. But I knew when we had our off day in practice that the weather was, it was right, and it was going to happen. And the first 5 females that I went to the first morning, I had 2 of them that were locked down. I went to both of them, caught them, and then the females that I had seen that weren't actually on bed, they had pulled up onto the closest male next to them, and then the fish just kept coming. Every day my area reloaded, and I did not expect that. I had planned to fish that area the first 2 days, and really the first day and a half, and absolutely burn it to the ground, especially after day 1 when I had that much company in there. I knew it was going to be over about lunchtime on day 2. And dude, it just kept surprising me every day, how it kept reloading. But day 1 worked out just like I drew it up. And that never normally happens in a sight fishing tournament.
I was going to say, I've texted you and I've talked to you about this, and I'm sure Mark Zona has as well. But anytime Drew Benton or Drew Cook texts us and says we're going to bust 30 or 40 on beds day 1 of the event, I feel it from practice. Something happens and it doesn't work out, and I'm like, I'm never listening to you ever again when you say that. I didn't get a text this week about it, but you went and caught 30. You went and got 31-13 on day 1 and surprised us a little bit, and you did it pretty quick, like you said. You caught those first 2 ones. But I want to know from you, how do you go about prioritizing waypoints? When you say I marked a fish, like I have a great photographic memory, especially for fishing spots. I can go to a lake I haven't been to in a dozen years, and I can be like, I remember catching one on that lay down on that riprap bank, the one piece of wood sticking off of there. Do you only mark certain size and quality fish, or beds that you can barely see, or how do you go about that so that you can keep them organized so you know where to go after you catch one? You already know which ones you're headed to next.
So the way that I normally do it, and it was a little bit different this week because we had an off day. Normally in our events, the day before the first day of the tournament, we're there. So we're putting everything to bed. The likelihood of, more stuff moving up is not all that great with just overnight. So normally I have, I mark all the males and lake depending, size depending, but like on Santee Cooper, 3.5 was about my max. A 3.5 pound male is what I would have marked had it been practice day right before. But because we had an off day and the females were moving up, I pretty much marked every male that I saw that was locked onto a bed. But what I normally do is I categorize it into the first 2 days of tournament, males and females, and whenever I mark one, if the weather's going to be bad, I will pull down and look at the bed and look at the surroundings and get a lineup to where I don't have to actually see the bed or if I'm going to start on that fish. If I know it's going to be one I'm going to start on, I'm going to get a line up on it, in hopes that you pull up, get your line up, and catch them, first cast, and then you're moving on. But I have fish that I'm going to catch the first day, which are going to be your really bright beds, your easy, obvious ones. And then I'm going to have fish that are for after that. They're going to be like under a bush or, way back in something, or black beds, which are, you really can't see them, or deeper beds, or, where they're just spawning on, the tip of a pad root, something where they, like, a lot of people will overlook them. Those are the ones that kind of get you through because everything's great on day one. Everybody's, going to the ones that they've seen and it's all good. But after that, when everyone's trying to look for the same stuff, you've kind of got to be a little sneaky with it. And, also in that same category for after day one, if there's a big pocket and there's only one bass in the back of it, like, obviously that's going to be one that most people aren't going to, trolling motor all the way down the bank and then there'd be one bass on bed and come back to it. That's going to be one of those that you're going to, you're going to want to save for day 2 or day 3. And that's pretty much how I do it. I have different icons. Day 1 is my females are green dollar signs. My first 5 males they're going to be red X's, and I'll either do hearts or, something different for day 2. And me and Benton kind of have the same deal. So whenever we share everything, like we all, know what the deal is. But yeah, I mean, the first day of that tournament, I went to the first 5 I wanted to catch. I caught them, and then I was like, what do I do now? And had the Harris chain not happened like it was, I probably would have texted you in the night before the tournament and told you, be ready. But the Harris chain burned me enough to where I was kind of kept my mouth shut and kind of flew under the radar.
So, Drew, I've wondered this for a really long time, and there might not be a good way to answer this. There might not even be an answer for this, or it could be super, super obvious answer. How do you become so good at looking at them? Because I think there's a lot of guys like me out there that during the spawn, you go looking and you wonder, how do the Drew Cooks, the Drew Bentons, the John Coxes of the world see so many fish on beds? Like, is it just a matter of practice, a matter of doing it in Florida where the water may not be ideal to do that? Where does that come from for you think?
I think it's a mixture of everything. I think that for me and Benton, our love for hunting has kind of played into the sight fishing deal. But the fact that here, like where me and Benton grew up, we can sight fish from pretty much the 1st of January all the way to at least, the 2nd week of May. That's a long time to be able to sight fish. And Cox, down there where Cox is from, is the same way, and it's just something that loving to hunt and fish, and it's like hunting the fish, put together, and we get to do it for so long. That's why, I feel like we're good at it. And I mean, I get my eyes were good, I guess, but I don't know whenever, I get to be 50 or so, if it'll be the same thing. But there's another common denominator between the 3 of us, and a lot of people really hasn't noticed it, but we all wear the same brand sunglasses, and it's not a run-of-the-mill glasses. I think like there was actually scopes. 5 of us in the top 10.
Yeah,
it's right. They're known for their scopes, and I've trusted their scopes for years, and now we're all using the Leupold sunglasses, and we're very impressed with them. So I should not have let Cox use them for 2 years before I started using them.
So what I'm hearing is that you have like a built-in zoom function on those. So when you can get farther back from fish and they scope in, and that's what I just heard from that whole takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And X-ray vision.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm about to order me a pair.
Yeah, exactly. They're already sold out on Tackle Warehouse and anywhere you can buy anything. But Drew, you obviously you you've wanted so bad to win your first Elite Series event. You've been great on the Elite Series for now. This is, I believe, your 4th season on the Elites, and you've never been outside the top 20 in points. You Rookie of the Year. You've vied for wins in the past, but you hadn't really, I would say you hadn't gotten super close to the win. Like you might have been top 10s, but you were like 5 to 10, like where you got to have like a giant bite to be able to go and win that event. For you to be in the driver's seat all 4 days of this event, did you have you've never been chased in an Elite Series event? You were being chased on that final day. And I remember watching the final, not the final fish catch, because I think you caught another 3-pounder at the end of Cole, but that 714, you caught it and you were like, you knew that was the fish that won the event. And you were spot on. You did not know in reality that you were a fish behind. You were 3 or 4 pounds behind, and that went ahead and got the century mark, and it took the lead from Caleb Kufal. What kind of spidey sense is that for you Elite Series pros who do not know the score, but you know that one fish either got you to a weight mark in your mind, or you knew that was the one that I'm going to win this event now?
Yeah, I knew I needed, around that upper 22 mark to have a shot. And whenever I saw the fish, I knew that it was the one that I needed. Obviously, I didn't know, but I don't think there's no way I would have felt the way I felt if Caleb Kufal had 38 pounds. Like that would have been the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, honestly. Thinking you won it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you look at or listen on the video, I'm pretty sure I say I need one more. But I needed one more to guarantee, that I won. I still felt that I had won, but dude, it was rough. You had
like 3 fish at 1 o'clock or something, which was incredible. Like one big one and like 2 normal fish, but not for Santee Cooper this past week. So that had to be some sweating as well, to have your slowest day on the final day with a delayed day in there as well. And it was kind of just like, is this going to go right?
Yeah. And honestly, day 2 and day 3 probably really helped me on day 4. Day 2 and day 3, I don't think I had a bass until at least 10 o'clock, both of those days. So like, I wasn't worried that I wasn't gonna, find the fish to catch. I felt confident that I was gonna find, around that 25-pound bag. But on day 4, I found I had a 5 1/4 male that I spent an hour and 3 minutes on and did not catch that bass. And the whole time trolling motoring around, like, is that the bass that gets me to the 24-pound mark? And I didn't catch him. Am I going to have, 18 or 19 pounds now and lose? And then right before I caught that 714, I actually found a stump that the bass weren't on bed yet, but on Tuesday they were bedding all right there around it. I guarantee it. But there was one stump that had 1 5-pound male, and it had 4 females that were all between 7 and 10 pounds. And I spent like 15 minutes there, and I couldn't get them to bite. And I picked the poles up, and I was trolling motoring down the bank, and I turned to Jake, my camera guy. I said, what am I doing? I could blow the tournament out of the water right there on that one stump. And like for a split second, I thought about turning around, and that's whenever I saw the 714, and it was like, okay, we made the right call. And it was, it was one of those things. I had the Century Club before I caught that 714 by 1 ounce from my scale. I had it by 1 ounce.
But you were only like 98 3/4 on Bass Track. So you were like right there. And so I always make the graphic of the Century Club guy, and I'm like, don't post it till they actually break 100, because they could be at 100 with 99.5, but don't post it till it says Bass Track wise. And so we waited, but and Kyle, you were out there. You got to see Luke Palmer's giant 9-pounder on day 3. You got to see Caleb Goofall and Luke Palmer on day 4. I think it's very incredible that our winner had 105-pound sight fishing, and then the guys that you covered weren't sight fishing, and in fact, they were throwing a spinnerbait and flipping a jig. Like, I mean, that was just incredible to go neck and neck with the spawning wave with just fishing.
Now, this is kind of getting off track of what you were just mentioning, but maybe the coolest moment of the entire tournament, even though I got to see the Palmer 9-pounder, saw Kufal catch the big one. Probably the coolest moment of the entire tournament. I want to know if Drew has heard more about this, but I got off the water at about 2 o'clock, 2:15, about the time that Drew catches his big one. I'm walking to my truck and they play it super loud over the big screen, him catching the big one there at the very end of the day. And your entire family was in the parking lot and just erupted of noise. Did they tell you anything about that? Because I'm not even kidding. That was the coolest moment I saw the entire week.
Yeah, I heard all that. I really wish there would have been a camera on top of that Jumbotron looking into the parking lot, because they left here at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And they can tell this story better than I can because they did it. But they got in the truck and they were like, he's going to catch 30 today, you know, blow it out of the water. We're pumped, blah, blah, blah. They get into some traffic and they're sitting there at like 1 o'clock or, 12 o'clock. And they're just, every time that they get service, it's Kufal catching another one, another 5-pounder, another 5-pounder. But when they show up, it's like they were coming to a funeral. And, they were, just down and everything. And I had a bunch of people there, and a lot of my friends drove up, and it was really cool. But whenever that happened, they went absolutely nuts. And if I would have been quiet over there whenever I caught it, I could have probably heard them from the boat ramp where I was. It'd have been really cool if somebody would have been able to capture that moment. Because, I mean, dude, I've said it a couple of times this week, that was a huge accomplishment for me and a big milestone for me, but my whole family, I mean, this is a big deal for all of us. There's so much that goes into one of these things, to getting one of these wins, that it's not just what, me and my time on the water. It's, everything that my wife does, all the sacrifices that she makes. And I mean, my whole family, my dad, I mean, he's came to every tournament that we've had pretty much. He said he would until I won. And now he's finally, got that. And, we've all had a lot of things that we've either given up or had to do that we didn't, want to be able to get here. And, I've had a very good career for the past 3 years, but there's still those, those voices like, how long am I going to do this? How long, can I do this, as a full-time career? And to finally be able to win one, it's it's solidified. It's like, yes, we can do it. And, now we can, move forward knowing that, we can do this for a living. We can, make this happen. And, hopefully one day get to where my wife and my son can travel. Fortunately, this year they've been to every tournament so far, so they might not have a choice. They might have to come to the rest of them because it's been a good year already.
Yeah, only day that I think Finn has missed was your terrible day one at the St. Johns River, but we're not going to talk about that anymore because you ended up, that's the cool thing is we've got 3 events that are, under our belts for the Elite Series. Obviously the Classic is the 4th event you fished this year other than Opens and things like that, but you got 9th at the St. Johns River fishing like you want to fish. Drew Benton got 2nd at the Harris Chain fishing the way he likes to fish. And in this, we weren't sure with the way the weather has been in Florida and South Carolina and even in Tennessee for Chickamauga coming up, if sight fishing would even be a deal. And for you guys and Cox and some other people to really thrive at it, that's got to be really cool. But I want to know, about, obviously we talked about it in Tackle Tip Tuesday. Kyle got to shoot that video with you about the Cook Quake, as we've called it on Bassmaster Live, with you shaking your rod, or shaking your line without moving your rod by punching the butt of your rod. Is this one of those things where you had like a stubborn 5 or 6, 7 pounder, maybe a 10 pounder in Florida, and you couldn't get it to bite, and you did that one day just because you had never tried it, and then all of a sudden now that's your go-to? Or how did you stumble upon that specific aspect of sight fishing, which people are like, it's just pitching a bait in there 100,000 times? No, it's keeping the bait in that small little zone within the zone to get them to bite.
Yeah, it was I was shown that. I wasn't shown the actually beating the bottom of the rod. The person that showed me how to do it does it like Benton. They shake the whole rod, but it's the same exact thing. And I started beating the bottom of my rod, and you can get them to bite a lot of different ways. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's the best way, to get them to bite. I feel like it does work better than most, but when a bass goes to the bottom to eat this bait, they're going to get the bait. The probability of you landing that bass is a lot better than whenever you're hopping this bait in front of them. A lot of times whenever you're hopping the bait, you're going to barely, hook the fish in the lip, and whenever you pull him to the surface and he wallers, he's gonna come off. Or as he's coming in the boat, he's going to come off. You're not going to get a good hook in him. If you can get him to eat it off the bottom, the hookup ratio is so much better than anything else. And it's all about just kind of aggravating them, and what a lot of people didn't get to see on live was a lot of times I am scaring the fish. So if the bass is gone, I like to hide my bait, like off the bed. If I've watched this fish and I know it's kind of, it's a little route, especially with the females, you put it up there next to a pad stem, or, get it in some of the grass or whatever. And as that fish is swimming by, when you start beating that thing, their instincts are to turn and eat it. And anytime you can get them to do that and not have to like actually bring them onto the bed, it's obviously going to be quicker. And sometimes that's what you have to do to catch them. But that shaking the bait without moving the bait is key. And I really wish we could make a video where you could actually see what I'm talking about, because nobody really understands, the bait moving without moving. It's staying in the same place, but the bait's moving a lot. And that's where a lot of people, I feel, have trouble, because, they're getting the fish to act interested, but as they're moving it out of the sweet spot. So they get less interested, or they actually pull the bait all the way off the bed. And then, you got to start over again. And, so
they don't react sooner or later. They don't react by the bait leaving the bed. When you get those fish spinning on the bait, it's when it enters and it lands, and those people often reel it back in and pitch back in there to make them do that quick turnaround. Yeah. Whereas once you get it there and where it's going to make them react, you just keep it moving. But I've got probably 2 more questions for you. And Kyle, hop in between if you definitely have another question. But is Drew Cook you just don't need the color white? Because I have decent eyes and I love sight fishing, and I loved it in college when we had a couple of sight fishing events. But I did like white, even though I could see other baits, because I like to see how the fish reacted, and you can see it a little better sometimes with white. But I've never seen you specifically or purposefully. You might have had it on the front deck, maybe, but you've never really utilized white. You've never really utilized white for a sight fishing bait, but tilapia magic's your go-to, which is kind of a darker color with a lot of flake.
Just a little side note, I just declined Chase Anderson's phone call. But
we're fine.
That's a good phone call. That's a good phone call to get.
White, I feel like, so I do use white every once in a while. But I feel like it takes longer to catch one on a white bait or an unnatural bait than it does a natural looking bait. Now I do have some really big bite tubes. I think they're 6-inch tubes, and they're white. And I use those most of the time to actually make the fish leave the bed. Whenever that I want that female to come in a different way, preferably like looking away from me, coming in from the bed on my side, say she's on the back side, I will flip that big white tube in there and get her to swim out of the bed, because she won't want to come back in on that side. And when she comes back in from, the boat side of it, it's, I can bring the bait right to her mouth and, it eats. People love the white bait. They want to see how good they have it in their mouth or whatever. Not a huge fan of it, but whatever works for you. I just feel like they eat the bait a lot better. And I've never seen anything white, in nature, really, in the water, like nothing.
So I want to say this.
Coke can.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, for those that have not done a lot of bed fishing, it's not as easy as Drew Cook makes it look. For instance, I went out to Murray 2 days ago and tried to catch some fish on beds doing the Cook quick, and it didn't work for me. So that's probably the Indian, not the arrow kind of deal on that. That
operator error.
Yeah, 100%. With that being said, I do want to ask you a question about this. So let's talk about the big 7-pounder on the last day. So that fish was obviously a long ways away from you. You see guys set up really pretty close to some bedfish. In that specific instance, were you able to see that fish, or were you located the fish and then backed way off, just to know where the bed was? Because you were so far away, I was kind of wondering in my head if you were able to see it, if you were just, kind of able to figure out where your bait needed to be in the bed relative to, how far you were, I guess.
No, I could see everything. And then they were in a lot, that final fish was in a lot shallower water than I had been catching them in. So I could see, a pretty good ways away. I would have liked to actually been a little bit further, but whenever I trolling motored in, I was on the trolling motor on like 100. And whenever I saw it, it was off the bed. I put my poles down, and as soon as you put your poles down, as soon as they catch, you can lift them up and it'll actually slingshot you backwards. And then that's whenever I saw the bed and where the male was, but I couldn't get far enough away, and everything that was around me was silted bottom. So if I'd have used my push pole if I'd have used my troll motor to back up, I'd have blown the whole thing out. If I'd used my push pole, it'd have been, a big cloud of dust. But I was still probably, 25 or 30 feet away. But I could still see the bed and see the fish and how it was reacting, to know that, the female had it, not the male. But there was one time I actually did catch or hook the male first. But they were both side by side, and they both bit at it. One of them got it before the other one, and it just so happened to be the male. But then we ended up catching him too, so it all worked out.
Yes, and it worked out because I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of the stat guy, obviously, on Bass Live, and so I got to throw out some numbers before we end the call with you. But you and Caleb Kufal became the 33rd and 34th anglers all time to break the century mark with Bassmaster, which is an exclusive club. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of anglers. There have been thousands that fish the Elite Series. Only 34 anglers have ever broke 100, and it's only been done 48 times. So there have been some guys who have duplicated on it. You were the 28th highest weight out of all of that. 105 pounds, 5 ounces is the 28th highest weight. Some little instances there. You and Kufal with breaking the century mark. You put Santee Cooper with 8 century mark bags or belts from that body of water, passing Clear Lake and Amistad for second all time to only Falcon, which is very crazy. I know we've only been to Falcon twice as well, but Santee Cooper being there 3 times, one of them in the fall, doesn't really count for the Century Club goal. That just shows that maybe Santee Cooper is a gem in the same realm of a Falcon. You just have to hit it in the spring, maybe you can't catch 100 pounds in the summer or things like that, like we did at Falcon. But can you speak to Santee Cooper and how just incredible of a body of water that was?
I can't explain to you how amazing that lake is. It is unbelievable. It's easier to catch a 5 or 6 pounder than it is a 2 pounder, and that is no kidding. I never caught one all week that was less than 2.5, 2 3/4, and that says a lot about a fishery. And just looking at the fish, dude, they are built. I mean, like little chublins, like meat wagons. Like there was me and Luke Palmer were sitting next to each other on day 3. He had a 9-something, or almost 10 pounder, and it was the same length of a 7.5 pounder I had. I mean, it was a young fish, you could tell, but it was just beefed. And I guarantee you, we go back to Santee Cooper next year in the fall, pretty please, or in the spring, that we would.
And the fall, we'll do it. We'll do both. Yeah.
And I talked to Patrick a lot about this, and if that cold front wouldn't have happened, the right before the tournament, he said it had taken 100 pounds for everyone in the top 10. Wow. And we would have probably set a new record. Like, I could definitely see it happening there. It's just unreal how quick those fish flood the bank and how many great big ones there is. Because I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't catch a big one all week, because I did. I caught some really nice fish, but I went in 31-13, and my biggest fish was a 6'9". That's solid.
Yeah,
like they're all that.
They're all 5.5 to 6.5. Yeah.
So like there was no great big one. I mean, the 714 was the biggest one I caught all week. And, like when we go to Florida, we catch 4 little ones and, a 9.5 or whatever. That place has just got a bunch of really nice ones. And that's what makes it so hard. Like there was a lot of fish that I marked on the bed and I was like, yeah, it's a 5 pounder. You catch it and it's 7. You're like, golly. And there was a couple males. I'm like, I don't know if I should mark those or not. They're close or whatever. That'd be 4 1/4. It's like, wow. Because it's all about how tall they were and how wide they were, not how long they were.
There are about 87 anglers that are mad at Drew Cook for passing up 4 pounders in the tournament. And they needed those 4 pounders to compete that week. But Drew, the last thing I'll say to wrap up my portion of this interview is I knew you in college. You fished at Florida State. You fished with Cody Spears. It was kind of like if Cody Spears and Drew Cook showed up to a college event, they were winning big bass for that week. You just had a knack, whether it was summer, fall, spring, you were catching the biggest bass of the event. And I kind of have a discernment level of personalities of people, like who I can trust, or that's a good dude, that's a bad dude, things like that, just in life. But in fishing, I've kind of I fished against that guy, and he's going to be an Elite Series pro one day. You didn't go straight into the opens immediately after college. You took like a year or two, got into it, and then you just knocked it out of the park really quick. But for you, did you know, I mean, in college that you were going to be a professional fisherman and you're going to find a way to make it work? Because this is a long journey, like you said, for your family, for your dad, for your wife and family. But for you, you've been fishing at a high level for a long time, but to get to the Elite Series level and be at a high level, that's a whole nother game compared to being at a high level locally, regionally, or in college, or even the opens.
Yeah, I planned to do that my whole life. And I did the year after I graduated, I fished the opens full time. There was 2 divisions that year. And
because now normally good college anglers now are fishing the opens like their senior year and their junior, like they're just going to do it both tours. But you did it not the right way, but you did it the old school way.
I wanted to graduate before I did it. Just in case, if I did, I didn't want to not graduate from college. And I mean, college bass fishing is kind of what, I mean, get me to college, but it was one of the reasons why I went to college was to fish. And really now the way that the college fishing and stuff is, and the high school, everything, it's unbelievable. There's scholarships and stuff. Like whenever me and you fished, like especially for Florida State, we paid out of pocket for like everything. That's why we didn't get to fish a whole lot of tournaments. We had to fish whatever our regional tournament was and hope to qualify for the national championship. And then, the fundraisers that we had would pay for just that, and now they recognize them as sports, and, they have scholarships, they provide boats and, travel and all that stuff. It was a lot different back then than it was now. There was only like a handful of schools that had scholarships and things, and to see where it's come from then is really pretty amazing. I'm glad that I was there whenever I was there, because I was there and fished against like
half the Elite Series field
of the hammers. We Forest Wood Cup champions, Bassmaster Classic champions. Like I've fished against all of them, and that's what I felt like our little time period. We had some really good anglers come from there, and there's still some of them that fish then that aren't on the elites yet, but they're going to be like Tom Frank. He's gonna be on the Elite Series before too long. It would not surprise me if it happened this year, now that he's actually taken the plunge and fishing, a whole division of the opens and things like that. He'll be there. He's very good, and he reminds me a lot of Aaron. They spend a lot of time together. He's one of those. He's got it.
Cerebral.
Correct.
Well, he obviously is off to a good start in Florida, like you said. But yeah, Drew, we fished against there are amazing anglers now, but you mentioned it. You can look at the Lake Chateaugue National Championship and just go down the list from Whitaker winning to Walters and them in the top 10s. And you were up there with Cody, and I was just always below y'all, which is very irritating, but I was like there, near it. And then Atkins and all of those guys as well, the Lees and things like that. So very, very special group. And now we've got a lot of those guys have won Rookie of the Year. They've won Elite Series events, and no doubt Classic champions in the future for sure. But Drew, I appreciate you coming on and joining us for a little bit of a winner's circle recap for the Santee Cooper Lakes Century Club event, 105 pounds, 5 ounces for Drew Cook. Kyle, can't say it much better than he did when it comes to bed fishing. That is a seminar in itself. I think we could have him in studio maybe when they come to Lake Fork, and we'll have him for about an hour, 2 hours just to talk about sight fishing. But Drew Cook, our latest Elite Series champion, and it's going to be a great segue because we're going to jump into the College Bassmaster Series as well shortly after that. But Drew, what a fantastic milestone event. It seems like it's a long time coming, but he's only been on the Elites for now. This is his 4th season.
Yeah, no. And like you said, just him giving some of that knowledge about sight fishing. There's definitely people in the United States, their area doesn't really allow them to do much sight fishing. But it's incredible. And it's really hard to explain just how talented a guy like Drew Cook is at doing that. Because like I said, you go out and try to do it yourself and you realize how difficult it is and how easy he and Cook Benton, and Cox and some of those guys make it look. So, it really, really is incredible. And for him to be willing to give up a lot of that information is really special from a fan standpoint, an angler standpoint, to be able to learn that, because otherwise that takes a lot of time and effort to figure it out. Time and effort that a lot of people, don't have the time to give.
I guarantee you, if Santee Cooper Lakes is on the schedule for March or April next year, or we have a couple Florida events, or there's some sight fishing events on the future, we're going to see a lot of guys going in for LASIK in about November, December to get that 20/20 vision. Because we always talk about what bait were you using, what line were you using, what rod were you using. He was using a Big Bite Baits Fighting Frog, his favorite bait. It seems like every Big Bite pro, that is the go-to creature bait for them. They love that. Obviously it works for a lot of those guys sight fishing, but a lot of it has to do with time on the water, seeing how you could get a biology degree in college, or you could go sight fishing and see how fish react and behave, and get a mini, maybe you could minor in bass biology just by sight fishing in Florida for a few months every year to learn how fish react. And that was one of my favorite things. I think we had 3 or 4 sight fishing events then when I was in college, and I think I got top 20 in 3 out of the 4, including like a 6th. So I love sight fishing, and I know there's just something to it and I even told partners when I fished in college, I was like, hey, when we get to the scales, we will hold up the fish and we caught these, but I have to catch this one. I can't just go back and I have to catch this sight fish, because you got to know the bass more than you got to know your bait and your glasses and your line. You have to know how fish react. But great talking with Drew Cook, winner of the Santee Cooper Lakes Bassmaster Elite Series event. Now, Kyle, we're going to take a little bit of a break from the Elite Series because we've got about 2 full weeks until Lake Chickamauga starts, which is going to be a great one. And we could end up, I was pretty skeptical a few weeks ago, but this could end up being a sight fishing event as well, which I know John Cox will be happy about, and all those other guys we've mentioned this show as well. But we're going to segue over to the Strike King Bassmaster College Series coming to my home lake. I'm going to be in Arkansas, but they are at Lake Norman this week, and that's where you're at, and that's why you're in a hotel room right now. So break it down. I guess it's a 2-day event the next 2 days.
2 days of 2-day event, like you said.
Friday, Saturday.
Tomorrow the weather's supposed to be my bad. The weather's supposed to be pretty nice, but Saturday got some weather moving in, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, gust upwards of 35, 40. So it's going to be tricky. Hopefully that holds off and they're able to fish 2 days back to back. But from the reports I'm hearing in practice, I bet you could guess this if I didn't tell you. But it's a lot of fish, just not very many big ones. Trying to, catch a better than average size fish. Definitely not the easiest, but, it sounds like from everything I've heard, there's fish in pretty much all 3 stages of the spawn, maybe not so much post spawn, but definitely some pre-spawn fish out deep on, brush and offshore places, things like that. And then, plenty of guys saying that they're seeing them up on the bank too. So definitely going to be interesting in the sense that there's going to be some diversity as far as the way the guys are fishing.
Yeah, we'll see some of those maybe sight fishermen or shallow guys doing well on day 1. And hey, wind on Lake Norman with the clear water up shallow is great. You obviously don't want it white capping in your area, but it's pretty clear. So if you get some wind, you can still power fish through it and catch fish. But I'm going to go ahead and add our guests for the second portion of this podcast, and that is, as you see right there, Matt Messer, Lafe and Matt Messer from Kentucky Christian. What's going on, fellas? How are y'all? Can y'all hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. What's up?
What's going on, guys? We've got Lafe and Matt Messer from Kentucky Christian. We just mentioned that, and they are our champions from the Harris Chain event, the first stop of the Strike King Bassmaster College Series. Kyle, you were down there. You got to witness it all, and you got lucky, and you stumbled upon the guys catching a giant bag of fish on the second day of the tournament to win that event. But how are you guys doing? And you're getting prepped. You're the team of the year leader rolling into Lake Norman.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough weekend for sure. There's a lot of bites and stuff, and we've got a pretty good plan, but you never know how it's gonna play out.
So like Ronnie mentioned, this is a little bit overdue. We should have already had you guys on probably by now, but definitely a good segue to talk a little bit about this Norman tournament. So we just want to give you an opportunity here. Tell us a little bit about that final day, 36-7 on the final day of a college series tournament to come back from, I want to say you guys were in 3rd or 4th, somewhere to come back and win a 2-day total of 61 pounds, 13 ounces. Just give us a little rundown of that. Obviously, I've had the opportunity to talk to you guys, but tell some of the, the fans that maybe didn't get to see that, how that went down and just how special of a day that was. 2 days.
Man, it was nuts. On day 1, we pulled up and we caught 25-pound quick, whatever, and we left our fish and saved. Like, we had an untouched school, didn't even mess with them. We knew it was going to be good, but we never really imagined it was going to be like that. And we pulled up, and I mean, it was like never a dull moment. Every 30 minutes we'd catch a giant, like all day long, just catching them.
So did you guys watch the Bassmaster Elite Series event at the Harris Chain just to kind of scope out if you saw anybody on Bass Live when we do the map pan, maybe some anglers, some fish catches on those shell bars? But I was kind of shocked. it progressed so quickly for the Elite Series event, and it kind of got towards the spawn, but some grass played, not necessarily shell. I didn't see a soul on those shell bars, and I know people looked at them. So it had to have been a perfect storm that week for you guys, that not many people a few weeks later caught them there, but how many big ones showed up that week there. Did you scan these fish, or did you just pull up and fish it? What made you stumble upon this in practice to even try it?
Well, we like to fish shallow, really, and on the bank, doing that stuff. And we tried, and we just couldn't get on anything that we felt like we could win on. So we had a good amount of time before the tournament, so we just kind of just idled until we ran into them. And that was the first real offshore place that we found that we felt like was pretty good. And we pulled up the first 3 casts. We caught like a 7, a 6, and a 5.5. Well, we got some bad weather and they were gone. They disappeared for like 3 days. And then the day before the tournament, we went back over. They were there. We stood up, made another cast, and shook one off. And so, like, we hadn't caught a fish there in almost a week on the tournament day.
So Ronnie kind of mentioned this, obviously pre-tournament for the Elite Series at the Harris Chain. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but it was incredible to me to see how many guys mentioned you guys catching a 36-pound bag. I saw Jason Christie mention it, Hunter Shryock. There were endless people that mentioned it in passing of some sort, like before the tournament started. Did you guys get the opportunity to see that? If so, what was that like?
Yeah, I had seen some stuff, and it was really cool, just like watching the YouTube videos or whatever, and they'd be talking about us and, I don't know, guys that we've looked up to, and it was just
guys we've always wanted to be, and then they was talking about us. Cool.
There was plenty of guys during that tournament that wanted to be you guys at the Harris Chain. I'll put it that way. But Ronnie, go ahead.
So tell us about, because you said it's crazy to see people that you want to be one day talking about you guys. So who are you? Obviously, Lafe and Matt Messer, Kentucky Christian. That's not necessarily a powerhouse school in bass fishing, but we kind of got together pre-season. Kyle had a couple pundit groups over here of guys that know college fishing, and we kind of made not an all-Americans list, but a prospects list, guys that we should watch. And I remember the guys saying, and I apologize, I've been out of the college game for a year or two. And so when they said Lafe and Matt Messer from Kentucky Christian, I said, Kentucky Christian? Who are these guys? And then you guys go and catch that weight, 61 pounds. I said, good call, boys, and texted the group chat that. But tell us who you are a little bit, and where you are in school, your goals and aspirations. And did you start your Kentucky Christian fishing team, or was that already there when you got there?
Well, we're brothers, obviously. We're from Eastern Kentucky, a little place called Martin County. I'm sure nobody's ever heard about it. But Kentucky Christians only had a team for 2-3 years, maybe now.
3 years.
3 years now. And, it's growing. It's getting good. Whatever. And our dreams, obviously, we're going to try to take this fishing thing as far as we can. Going pro has always been a dream of ours, and that's what we're going to try to do any way we can.
So what year were you guys in school, both of you?
I'm a senior. Well, junior. A little behind.
You got. Hey, you've been catching too many bass. You got one more year to go, I guess.
And I'm a sophomore.
Okay, cool. So you guys still have a little bit of fishing time to go. And it's obviously, did you sign up for all 4? Were you guys wanting to do this team of the year push, and now you're off to a great start with the first event being the winner?
Yeah, team of the year. that's really the main goal for us. Like last year, we was in second for half the season, then had a bad tournament, and that's something that we wanted. So that was starting out. We really felt like the Harris Chain was probably going to be our worst tournament this year. So I hope it is.
If you catch more than 61 pounds at Lake Norman for 2 days, I will give you my truck and boat, because that's my home lake and I know exactly what Lake Norman has. And if you catch 62 pounds there, I'm going to have a polygraph guy sent to the thing. Make sure you didn't lock through somewhere else. But that I obviously get your aspirations there. And Kyle, you told me a little bit about these guys. Obviously, you got to cover them on the water, but do you have it in your gut that you're like, hey, these guys do have what it takes separate? Because that's the deal. You could be a great team. We've seen great teams in college, But those guys, do they both have the alpha, I guess, mentality of being able to run the trolling motor by themselves on their own and catch them in the opens, and then the Elite Series?
Absolutely. So this is something that we talked about a decent bit when we were coming up with a prospect list is, generally speaking, when you're talking about college teams, and it's been like this when I was in college, when Ronnie was fishing in college, there's usually one alpha. There's one guy that's like the guy. Watching these two, you could not tell which one the alpha is because they're both alphas. So I definitely think they'll be just fine when they decide to go that route. And then also, still having each other to help through practice and that kind of thing, whenever that time comes, obviously goes a long ways because you're talking about practicing, covering bodies of water that are massive a lot of times, and doing that all on your own is pretty tough. But having, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I guess they probably trust each other a decent bit. So whenever one says something, they're probably going to put some merit into it, I would guess.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you guys like the Johnstons, where when you guys start fishing professionally, you guys going to split? You guys are going to have a bank account for you and your wife, and you and your wife, and you're going to have a bank account where you just put all your bass winnings together and just kind of team it, but separate?
Yeah, that probably sounds about right. I mean, we've always been in it together. Probably won't ever end like that.
So with the Norman tournament coming up, I imagine this podcast will probably go up either during the tournament
Friday.
Yeah. So just give us a little bit of outlook now, like everything that you've seen in practice, kind of your expectations for the tournament, kind of how you're going to approach it. Like I said, this isn't going to go up until the tournament's already happening. So just kind of your expectations and kind of the way you're going to approach this tournament.
I think that the weights in this tournament is going to be a lot better than what we normally see on Norman. And we've just seen so much potential, like up shallow, fish cruising, fish bedding. I mean, you can fish docks and catch big spots, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to play, and I think somebody will figure out how to catch a big bag.
It'll be one bed fishing, I'd say.
Really? And that's kind of a hard thing to do for an Elite Series event for 4 days, to bed fish all 4 days. But also you have the opportunity to slip with a tough day with weather and then rise back up with a great day of weather. With only a 2-day event, you guys do think with the weather changes that are coming, that bed fishing will be a deal. Obviously, Lake Norman has about 1 billion boat docks and about 1 million little fingers and coves that you can get into to be protected. But that's always encouraging when you think you found 10 possible bedfish, or you will find 10 possible bedfish that'll get you through.
Well, I think it definitely, whoever wins will make bed fishing work in some way. It might not have all 10 of them, but they'll definitely have some off the bed. There's a lot of fish bedding right now.
That's really the only consistent thing that we've seen or talked about
to catch quality.
Like, as far as big fish go, the rest of the quality that we've seen has just been completely random, and we can't get on nothing like that. But I mean, if somebody can catch 2 big bed fish, like 4 pounds a piece, and then 3-pound spots, I mean, I think that's how that's going to be done.
So from the time that you guys started practice to now, have you seen more and more fish start to move to the banks, or has it kind of just leveled off?
Well, every little section of this lake's been fishing like crazy different. Like, there was a big wave pulled up on the lower end of the lake, and now it's like they're done, or we can't find them or something because they're gone down there for us. But it's like it's just moving on up the lake. As soon as the water temperature gets right in a certain place, then they're doing it there and whatever.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I think whoever does make the bed fishing work, I think the fish will probably be found in the tournament. Like, I don't think there's going to be fish that was found in practice.
That's what I was going to ask, was at what stage, obviously you guys are taking off at Blythe Landing down at the bottom of the lake. What's the water temp? Just give me a Ramsey Creek, the bottom end of the lake. What's that water temp versus a Davidson Creek or even a Mountain Creek as you go up the lake? Is it that much different, or is it just 3 days behind or a full week behind for some of these stages?
It seems like it's probably just a little less than a week. Like the water temperature down around Blythe is like 66 or so. And then pretty much as soon as you get away from there, it'll get down to like 62, 60. And it's just like we found one place today that we was in earlier in the week, and the water temperature was like 56. Went in there today and it was 61.
Wow. It's light up everywhere.
And it's just, you'll have a place where you found some beds, and then you'll go check them, and both of them's gone or whatever, and then there'll be 2 more pulled up beside it. And it's just, they're coming and going fast. I don't know. It's hard to follow them, but I think you're just going to have to run a lot of new water and try to find some.
So looking forward to the rest of the season, it's interesting to hear you guys say that the Harris Chain was the tournament you were looking forward to the least. What tournament on the schedule are you looking forward to the most, and why?
We said the Harris Chain because we've never really been competitive in slugfest tournaments like that.
Oh, you were this time.
It worked out fine this time. Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, we grew up fishing tough tournaments, tough lakes. So, like, I kind of looked forward to Norman a lot, just because I knew it probably wasn't going to take as much as like the Harris Chain weights, stuff like that. I think Norfolk's going to be a lot of fun, and I mean, we had a blast at Saginaw last year. That place is unreal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, from what I heard and what I remember of that tournament, it was not hard to get bit. It was basically anywhere and whatever you wanted to do, you'd catch a bass. So I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Well,
Ronnie,
go ahead, Kyle.
no, I was just going to ask if you had any last questions.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. We obviously got to know you guys year in school. Obviously, one still a couple years left. One definitely is a little behind, so probably at least one more year left. But tell me, personality-wise, like if you guys could only pick up one bait the rest of your life and catch them the way you want to catch them, what would be the bait for you guys individually that fits your style? Like this tells me a lot about anglers when they tell me their bait, that if they could only fish with one thing the rest of their life and be glad catching bass, what would they catch it on?
Jigs. I have both of those. Jig. Yeah. Put a jig in her hand and go flipping.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up, but I did want to mention, I know you guys have probably heard this. It's been about 2 months since your record-setting Harris Chain event, but the highest 2-day weight in college bass history, 61 plus pounds. It's really sad for the boys in Emmanuel College that they broke the record too, but they don't get talked about because you guys beat them. But you also were the 3rd highest weight ever. And the other 2 events were 3-day events. One of them was at Sam Rayburn, and the other one was at the Harris Chain in the fall when it was 84 pounds for 3 days. So incredible, the Harris Chain. It's crazy to think that it took 77 pounds for the elites to win in a better time of the year, I would say, to catch big ones and sight fish and things like that. And you guys caught 61 in 2 days, and it's 77 for 4 days. And that we've even seen 80 pounds for 3 days at the Harris Chain. So awesome feat. Matt and Lafe Messer, Kentucky Christian. If you don't know about them, now you do. And you're going to be hearing a lot about them, according to Kyle, in the future, especially if they lock a jig in their hands from what they're saying. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, appreciate y'all joining us. Good luck at Lake Norman. Like we said, Inside Bassmaster Podcast, this episode goes up day 1 of the College Series event at Lake Norman, Friday and Saturday. It's a 2-day event. Tune into Bassmaster.com and check it all out. But for Kyle Jessie, myself, Ronnie Moore, Matt Lafe Messer, and champion Drew Cook, we're signing off on this episode and appreciate y'all joining us.
Thank you.